You better get your ass on, Hunky, while I still let you.
That's me. The fuck?
Oh,
shit.
The movie opens with Walter Kowalski stands stiff and silent as he buries his wife, Dorothy. The church fills with guests paying their respects, but his own grandkids shuffle in dressed like they're headed to the mall. They whisper, joke, and fidget through the service, completely disconnected. Walter's sons catch the look in his eyes. That cold glare says it all. No matter what they do, it'll never be enough. As the awkward, fresh-faced Father Janovich stumbles through his sermon, Walter's granddaughter Ashley barely pretends to listen. She scrolls on her phone, bored and checked out. Later, during the wake, the grandkids wander down into the basement and stumble across dusty old photos and war medals. But Walter doesn't say much. He's the kind of man who refuses help, who insists on doing everything himself, no matter how small the task. Outside, the quiet neighbor boy, Thao, shows up during the memorial. He's there to borrow tools, but Walter shuts him down without hesitation. Back in the garage, Walter finds Ashley sneaking a smoke. He doesn't scold her. She casually asks who'll get the old couch, and more importantly, the car, when he dies. Walter doesn't answer, but the unspoken message is clear. The 1972 Ford Gran Torino means more to him than most people ever will. Father Janovich keeps coming around, trying to live up to a promise he made to Dorothy. He urges Walter to go to confession, to unburden himself, but Walter wants no part of it. Church was for his wife, and he's got no interest in spiritual advice from a 27-year-old virgin who's never been tested by life. He tells the priest to save his sermons for someone who actually wants saving. Walter spent his life on the Ford factory line and holds a fierce loyalty to American-made machines. So when he sees his Hmong neighbors practicing their traditional rituals, he doesn't hide his contempt.
Barbarians.
When Janovich shows up again, trying once more to reach him, Walter finally loses patience. He calls the young priest out, says he's just a soft kid holding the hands of dying old ladies, selling them fairy tales about eternity. Meanwhile, Thao's life is taking a dangerous turn. On the street, he's harassed by a Mexican gang, only to be rescued by his cousin Spider's crew. They chase the others off, then turn their attention to Thao. They pressure him, claim they'll keep him safe if he joins them. Thao tries to resist, but they don't back off. Later, while he's out tending the garden, they corner him again. Spider casually brings up the car next door, the gleaming Gran Torino. That same night, Father Janovich even tracks Walter to a bar, still clinging to Dorothy's last wish. But Walter, hardened by brutal memories of the Korean War, has no patience for lectures from someone whose only battles have been in books. Then, deep in the night, Walter hears something, a noise from the garage. He grabs his rifle, heart pounding, and finds Thao mid-break-in, trying to steal the Gran Torino. Walter levels the weapon, but loses balance. The gun fires into the air. Thao bolts into the darkness. From that moment on, Walter's walls go up. He keeps the rifle loaded, starts reinforcing his home. The war might be decades behind him, but now it feels like it's right outside his door. Walter gets a call from his son, but the conversation fizzles before it even begins. It's clear his son only calls when there's something in it for him, and Walter has no interest in small talk or forced connection. The call ends, leaving nothing behind but silence. Meanwhile, Spider keeps circling. He tries again to pull Thao into the gang, but this time, the boy refuses to budge. He stands his ground. When Spider and his crew return and try to drag Thao into their car, his entire family rushes out to stop it. Chaos erupts, voices shouting and limbs flailing, the scuffle spilling right onto Walter's pristine lawn. Then the front door swings open. Walter storms outside with a rifle in his hands, his face hard as steel.
Get off my lawn.
listen, old man, you don't want to with me.
Did you hear me? I said get off my lawn now.
Without flinching, he tells Spider exactly what will happen if they don't back off. He'll blow his face off and sleep like a baby afterward. That's all it takes. The gang retreats, still barking threats, but their bravado fades under Walter's cold stare. Thao's family is shaken, but grateful. The next day, they show up at Walter's doorstep with food, flowers, an old-world gesture of thanks. But Walter meets them with the same scowl and the same loaded rifle. He doesn't want their gratitude. He tosses the gifts into the trash without hesitation. Sue, Thao's older sister, speaks perfect English and tries to bridge the gap with kindness. Walter barely listens. All he says is to keep Thao off his lawn. Later, Father Janovich returns, still trying to get through to him. He asks why Walter never called the police when the gang attacked. Walter just shrugs, said he prayed the cops would show, but no one came. One wrong move, and there would have been blood in the grass. The priest tries again, gently urging Walter to talk about his past. He says men like him have found peace by confessing what they were were ordered to do in war. Walter nods but says it's not the orders that haunt a man. It's the things he did without being told. Afterward, Walter heads to the barbershop, his usual spot. Inside, he trades sharp-edged insults with Martin, the Italian barber. It's rough, borderline offensive, but that's how they show respect. Crude jokes wrapped around a bond neither of them would admit out loud. Elsewhere, Sue is out walking with a date when 3 thugs start circling. They mock her, corner her. She stands her ground, doesn't back down, but she's clearly outnumbered. That's when Walter's truck pulls up. He steps out, quiet and calm. The punks laugh at the old man until they see the gun in his hand. Then everything changes. Without raising his voice, Walter makes it clear what'll happen if they don't walk away. The threat isn't loud, but it's real. They back off, and he drives Sue away from the danger. On the ride home, he scolds her. Says she shouldn't be wandering around with a boyfriend who won't lift a finger to protect her. Sue doesn't argue. Instead, she tells him more about her people. The Hmong, who came from the highlands of Laos, Vietnam, and southern China. They fought alongside Americans during the war, and when the U.S. pulled out, the North Vietnamese hunted them down. Her family came here to survive. In Walter's world, young men like Thao often face the worst of it. They get pushed around more than the girls and have a harder time finding their place in a country that barely notices them. But one afternoon, Walter catches a glimpse of something different. He sees Thao helping an elderly neighbor, while the other kids stand around doing nothing. It's a small moment, but it sticks with him. Meanwhile, Walter's own kids make it painfully clear they've stopped trying to understand him. For his birthday, they show up with gifts that feel more like insults. A phone with massive buttons and a grabbing stick for reaching things. Then they suggest it might be time to move into a nursing home. That's it. Walter throws the presents out, still in their hands. Later, Sue finds him alone on the porch, nursing a beer. She invites him to a family barbecue. Walter grumbles, but she throws in a joke. Says the only rule is that he can't eat her dog. They only eat cats. That actually gets a smile out of him. And soon, Walter's walking across the lawn trying one of the neighbor's homebrews. Inside, Sue's grandmother glares at him like she's staring at her own reflection. Only older, meaner, and American. The rest of the family watches him like he's some kind of zoo exhibit. Walter doesn't say much, but he sees what's right in front of him. A real family, built on tradition, loyalty, and respect. Everything he's missing from his own blood. But the cough is back. It's sharper now. Walter quietly slips upstairs to the bathroom, takes a breath, and looks at himself in the mirror. Sitting back down with another beer, he admits something he'd never say aloud. He feels more in common with these so-called slant eyes than with his own damn family. He finally digs into the food like he means it. There's real warmth in the flavors, and something loosens in him. Sue nudges him to head downstairs. Says that's where the younger crowd hangs out. And unlike the elders, they actually speak English. Thao's sitting alone when Walter shows up. The old man strikes up a playful conversation with a young girl named Yua, then elbows Thao, teasing him for not making a move. The girl was clearly interested. Walter calls him out for sitting there like a rock, saying nothing all night. He pokes and provokes like an old drill sergeant trying to jolt some pride into the boy. And it's working. Slowly, something shifts. Walter starts enjoying the food the neighbors bring over. He stops throwing it out and starts accepting it. Like maybe, just maybe, he's not such an outsider anymore. One day, Thao's mother shows up and tells Walter that her son has to make up for the shame he brought on the family. He'll work for Walter now. Walt tries to wave it off, but the women won't hear it. No is not an option. The next morning, Walter sends Thao outside and tells him to count birds. A test, plain and simple. He pushes, pokes, tries to wear the kid down. But Thao doesn't flinch, doesn't complain. Walter's impressed. So he hands him a real job, and they get to work fixing up the house together. But Walter's cough keeps getting worse. At the hospital, Dr. Chu recommends a full checkup. The results aren't good. Walter doesn't say much, but he knows what it means. He picks up the phone and calls his son, wants to tell him the truth, but the conversation doesn't go anywhere. The son is too wrapped up in everyday nonsense to even hear it, and the distance between them, already deep, only grows wider. Spider hasn't forgotten. Thao's failed attempt to steal the Gran Torino was a slap in the gang's face, and now they want payback. Walter senses the danger and finally decides to step in, not just with words, but with action. He starts mentoring Thao like the grandson he never had. He teaches him the basics, how to work with his hands, how to fix what's broken. Thao is in awe of Walter's garage, the rows of tools lined up with precision. It's like stepping into a world he never had access to. Walter hands him a starter kit, pliers, duct tape, and anti-rust spray. Not flashy, but enough to solve solve half the problems in any house. It's a rite of passage. When Walter can't move his heavy fridge out of the basement on his own, he finally swallows his pride and asks for help. Thao steps in, offering to lift the heavier side. But Walter, stubborn as ever, barks at him to listen. Thao doesn't back down. He tells Walter straight, if he's there to help, he gets to lead. It's a turning point. The kid's learning not just skills, but confidence. Sue explains later. Thao's never had a real male figure in his life. Not one who showed him how to navigate this country, how to stand tall. Now, he and Walter act like family. Thao washes the Gran Torino with care, helps with yard work, and quietly worries about Walt's endless smoking and that nagging cough. Thao shares his dream, to work in sales, like Walter's oldest son. But Walter scoffs. To him, sales is nothing more than legalized stealing. Still, Thao doesn't have many options. No college, no degree, no clear path forward. So Walter makes a promise. He'll help Thao find a job. But first, the boy needs to learn how to carry himself. They start at the barbershop. Walter lays it out. Talk about your job, your girl, or your car. That's how men do it. The barbers jump in, giving Thao a crash course in confidence. Speak clearly, stand tall, no sucking up. And since Thao doesn't have a job, a girl, or a car, he's allowed to stretch the truth.
Excuse me, sir. I need a haircut. If you ain't too busy, you old Italian son of a prick barber.
Later, Walter drives Thao to a real construction site and introduces him to a foreman friend. Thao impresses him, and just like that, he's hired. At the store afterward, Walter buys him a tool belt. Nothing fancy, but Thao is genuinely touched. The old man didn't have to do any of this, but peace doesn't last. One evening, as Thao walks home from work, Spider's gang jumps him. They beat him, steal his tools, and burn a cigarette into his face. When Walter sees the damage, he's livid. Thao refuses to retaliate, but Walter won't let it slide. He hunts down one of the gang members, roughs him up, and pulls a gun. The message is clear. Stay away from Thao, or there'll be consequences. For a moment, things settle down. Thao even builds the courage to ask Yua out. Walter beams with pride and offers the Gran Torino for their first date. That car, his most prized possession, is now a symbol of trust. But the night takes a dark turn. The Hmong family's home is riddled with bullets. No one is killed, but Thao takes a graze to the neck, and Yua, she never made it to her aunt's house. Hours later, she's dumped outside her home, bruised, bloodied, broken. Walter is shattered. The guilt crushes him. He knows the gang escalated because of him, because he humiliated one of them. Enraged, he storms into his house and loses control, smashing his hands against furniture and glass until they're bloodied and useless. Father Janovich arrives not long after. He's just returned from taking Sue to the hospital. The family is terrified. No one wants to talk to the police. Without witnesses, the authorities' hands are tied. The cycle of violence will just keep spinning, unless someone chooses to end it. That night, Walter sits down for a quiet drink with Father Janovich. The young priest confesses he's angry too, furious at the violence, the fear, the helplessness. But neither man has answers. Not yet. The next morning, Thao shows up at Walt's doorstep, eyes blazing. He's not there for comfort. He wants justice. He knows Walt won't let this go, and he's ready to fight. But Walter puts a stop to it. He's been down that road before. He's made enough mistakes to know exactly where revenge leads, and he won't let Thao carry that kind of weight. He tells the boy to go home. He needs time to think. Walter draws a bath. He sinks into the water and lets the silence wrap around him. Later, he gets a clean cut from Martin, the barber, who's been ribbing him for years. Then he visits a tailor, orders a sharp black suit, measured and fitted. It's clear he's preparing for something final. He even keeps his promise. He walks into church and steps into the confessional. Janovich is stunned, especially when it ends almost as soon as it begins. Walt admits he failed his sons, but that's all. When the priest tells him to go in peace, Walter responds simply,
Oh, I am at peace.
As the sun sets, Walt meets Thao again. This time, it's to say goodbye. He hands the boy a rifle and one of his most sacred possessions, the Silver Star. He tells Thao about the night in Korea when he earned it. He killed more than a dozen men in one go and came back the only survivor. But the medal, he says, didn't come from bravery. It came from a moment he'll never forget, when he gunned down a terrified boy who tried to surrender. Before Thao can process it, Walter distracts him and locks him in the basement. The boy yells and pounds on the door, but Walter won't let him out. He tells him the truth. Killing someone is the worst kind of burden. It doesn't go away. And no matter what Thao wants, Walter won't let him live with that for the rest of his life. He's proud of him, proud of the man he's becoming. But he won't let vengeance take him down. Walter leaves his loyal dog with Sue's grandmother. Then he calls Sue and tells her where to find the basement key. Meanwhile, Father Janovich and the police wait near the gang's house for hours, but it's quiet. Nothing happens. Eventually, orders come in to stand down. They're told to leave and to take the priest with them. As soon as the coast is clear, Walter makes his move. He steps into the middle of the street and faces the gang alone. No backup, no fear. He taunts them, openly mocking them. He lights a cigarette, calm and deliberate, then points his fingers like a gun. And then he reaches into his jacket. It happens in a flash. The gang unloads on him, bullets tearing through the night. Walter drops to the ground, lifeless. The object in his hand, just a lighter. He dies unarmed, but not in vain. His sacrifice forces the authorities to act. The gang is arrested, and this time, justice sticks. The violence ends. Later, Sue, Thao, and Father Janovich gather to say goodbye. The priest admits the truth. He didn't understand life or death until he met Walter Kowalski. At the funeral, the Hmong community comes in full ceremonial dress to honor the man who stood with them. In the reading of Walt's will, his family sits in stunned silence. They get nothing. The house goes to the church, but the Gran Torino? That goes to Thao, with a few instructions. No chopping the roof, no ridiculous spoilers, and definitely no cheesy flame paint. Thank you for watching, friends. If you're enjoying the vibe of these older classics, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to keep bringing you more high-quality recaps just like this.